Great. Morning, everyone, once again, and welcome very much. Welcome. And what I want to do now is I'm going to hand over to Lebo, who will kick us off for this webinar of the evolution of mobility.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to join us today in this webinar called The Evolution of Mobility. I am super excited to share the new developments in this particular sector of Esri technology. My name is Lebogang Mashishi, and I am the product lead for Esri South Africa. I'm not riding solo today. I am with my colleague, Sean Cullen, who is the industry lead for commercial. And today we are going to be taking you through the latest developments for mobility. But before we start, let's just have a look at some housekeeping rules. First of all, if you guys do have any questions along in the webinar, please post your questions in the Q&A section. So we have a chat section and then we have a Q&A section. We will be taking questions posted in the Q&A section. We will have a Q&A session after the presentation and the demo. So we'll be going through everybody's questions, and we will then be engaging you guys on those questions at the end of the demo. The webinar will be recorded and it will be made available, so you guys don't have to worry about that. And the last thing is we will be running polls throughout the session. So this is very important for us because we want to know what your needs and your wants are and what your experience with Esri technology is, so that the next time we run something like this, we actually are basing it off what you guys have told us that you like. So I'm going to encourage you guys to please participate in the polls as we run along the session. Alrighty, so I think let's get started. We're actually going to kick off this session by running a quick poll. Before we get started with the context of, mobility, the first question just basically asks, are you currently using any of Esri's mobile applications? So just on your screen, there's going to be a poll that pops up. The answers are yes, I used to, but I don't anymore. The next answer is no. And the last one is I would like to in future. A huge bulk of you guys are actually saying yes. So I'm just seeing the answers as they come along. I am seeing just, a small population of you saying no. And if you are not, then you're at the right place, because we're going to be showing you some of the new technologies and what you can actually utilize within Esri's mobile applications. And I can see about 22% are saying that they would like to use them in future. All right. Thank you, Sean, for running that poll. Like I said, a very big chunk of you guys are actually saying yes. And I'm so happy to see that there are a lot of people that are actually utilizing Esri's mobile application. I can see there's also a huge chunk of people that are actually saying that they would like to do so in future. And like I mentioned, you are absolutely at the right place. Okay. Alrighty, thank you, Sean, for that poll. Let's get into it. Now, when we talk about the world of mobility, we talk about a workflow that compromises of certain number of components, right? Now, the ArcGIS system basically provides technology for all phases of your field operations, whether it's planning, whether it's navigating, understanding, capturing your data, which is very important, monitoring your data, and coordinating. We have a suite of products that basically can give you, as well as the people in your organizations that do field work, the capability to actually perform this, right? Now, let's look at all of them a little bit in detail. When we talk about planning, right? The first one is planning, and with planning, that's just planning and coordinating the work activities that need to happen, right? So whether it's actually preparing your data in ArcGIS Desktop, for example, in ArcGIS Pro, or it's, assigning a location-based job task to somebody who's out on the field with instructions of what they need to do, right? Utilizing an app called ArcGIS Workforce. You can do this within the Esri system. The next step is then you would need to actually navigate. Once you have your data set up, you've got that point of location where you need to start actually collecting your data, you would need to navigate yourself. And that's when we really start looking at an application called ArcGIS Navigator that allows you to do turn-by-turn directions to the location that you have assigned to your users. Now, the real power of ArcGIS Navigator is that you can actually add your own data, right? So you don't have to rely on the normal streets data, but if you've got your own network, let's say, for example, a fiber line that you would like to follow, then you can actually add it onto ArcGIS Navigator. The next step or the next component is really understanding that data. So basically just having mapping capabilities on the field. And that's looking at, an application called ArcGIS Explorer. When you can open your map in the field, you can start taking notes, you can start doing markups, you can click on a certain feature and you'll be able to actually access the pop-up and all those information, right? You can utilize using that application. And the crux really of field operations is really capturing your data. And as we can see here, we've got quite a couple of applications that can fall into this category. So whether you're using ArcGIS Collector, which is basically a map-based collection mobile application, or you're using a more form-based approach, utilizing something like Survey 123 or quick capture. But you can also utilize something called ArcGIS Drone to Map if you want to capture raster or imagery on the field, right? So you basically apply, whatever your workflow is, what the outcome of the project is, you choose an application from the list we have and you start capturing data. The next step really in this workflow is making sure that you're monitoring every data set that is coming in, but you're also monitoring the locations of your field workers, right? And that's when we start looking at applications like ArcGIS Tracker that basically just gives you a location of your worker at that very moment, wherever they're going. So it's very simple. It's like somebody just simply tracking you, right? As an administrator or as a supervisor, you then have the ability to visualize those tracks and even later on start doing analysis with those tracks, right? You can visualize them in a simple map view, or you can visualize all of this in an ArcGIS dashboard. And the last one is really just the coordinating, right? So making sure that everybody knows where they are, what map they should have, and if they really have the right data. And this is when we utilize an application called ArcGIS Workforce, as well as Tracker, as well as Explorer. Now, when you look at this in context, it's different applications that I have mentioned to you, whether you can install it on your mobile device or you install it on your desktop. But these are applications that Esri has created to empower and enable the field mobility workforce to actually do their work on the field. So with that said, I am going to run a second poll. And in this poll, I want to find out from you. I've spoken a little bit about all the different products and applications that are available for field mobility. I just want to know, which of the following applications have you used before or are you currently using, right? Are you using Collector? Are you using Survey 123? Are you using both of them? ArcGIS Workforce? Are you using Tracker, Quick Capture, or ArcGIS Navigator? I can see Survey 123 is the popular one. It's taking the lead. Sean, from this list, what is your favorite application, mobile application?
I can see I fall into the large percentage of Survey 123, and one of the other ones that I've been focusing on recently is that ArcGIS Tracker. So hopefully that 100%. Will gain a bit more traction in the near future.
Yeah, Sean has been doing a lot of work on Tracker. We'd be sitting in the office and Sean would just be wandering around the office park tracking himself. My favorite is actually Workforce, okay? So yeah, I mean, I like Survey 123, but I really like working with ArcGIS Workforce. So yeah, I think maybe we can close that poll. Obviously, Survey 123 is definitely taking the lead. And I mean, Survey 123 is just like a very simple application to use, to create, to get started with. There's a very huge bulk of people that are actually utilizing Collector. And if you are again, I am so happy to see that because you're definitely at the right place. Not a lot of people utilizing Tracker, and maybe we can talk about it. You know, if you've got any questions about it, please post it in the Q&A, but we are going to be showing you some tracking capabilities on there, right? So thank you so much for sharing your results with us. Now, I have spoken a lot about different applications that need to be installed on one single phone that can perform all these multiple things, right? So ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy today to introduce to you Esri's new mobile, simple, unified application called ArcGIS Field Maps application. This is a product that was created by Esri that basically just allows you to do visualizing of your map data on the field, collecting your information on the field, as well as doing tracking. This is what ArcGIS Field Maps can do now, but the possibilities are endless. The whole idea behind ArcGIS Field Maps is that Esri wants to give you one simplified, unique application where you can perform all these 5 different operations that we spoke about. So within ArcGIS Field Maps, you install one application, you sign in only once on your mobile device, and you can then perform tasks for planning, for navigating, for understanding your data, for capturing, for monitoring, as well as coordinating, taking away the need to install many different separate applications on your mobile device, right? And I mean, this is very important because now you don't have to download each application on your mobile device. So you actually are going to be saving a lot of space on your mobile device or your GPS. The second thing is that you don't have to sign in multiple times, right? You can sign in only once and you can access all those 5 different capabilities from this one application. Another thing is that now you don't also need to have multiple copies of offline data, right? So if you are utilizing, let's say, a specific base map, you don't have to, have a base map for each and every application because all of those capabilities are now in one application. So therefore, you only need one offline area. And I think for me, you don't have to switch through multiple applications. And I think that's really amazing, right? A lot of these Esri applications allow you to, you capture in survey 1 to 3, but you navigate in Navigator, but you then need to go sort of inform your supervisor that you're done with the work. So you really find yourself on the field navigating through these different applications. And what Field Maps does is that it puts all these different capabilities into this one application so you can actually utilize it. So I am really excited to tell you about Field Maps. It's available to download on your App Store if you are using iOS, as well as your Google Play Store if you are using an Android application. So today, we're going to be talking about Field Maps, what the possibilities are, what you can do, and what the future for mobility in Esri actually looks like. So really, what does Field Maps actually give me, right? The first thing that Field Maps give me from the world of the Explorer application, it gives me the best breed in mapping system. I can open my map on the field, I can click on a feature, open a pop-up, start doing markups, literally just exploring rich information that I have on my maps. The second thing that it gives me is world-class data collection solution. So just like Collector for ArcGIS, I am able to capture points, lines, polygons. I can attach videos, sounds, PDF files, or images when I'm on the field. But we're going to be showing you guys all of that a bit later on. The third thing is that it gives me revolutionary location tracking technology. That means that if I am in Field Maps and I have enabled the function to be tracked, every single time I am moving or driving around in my vehicle or I am walking around on the field, my tracks are actually being captured and stored separately so that either my supervisor can monitor where I am moving or also do analysis just on my tracks a little bit later on. Currently, Field Maps has those 3 main capabilities. What is coming very soon on Field Maps is world-class tasking and work management solutions. What that basically means is that I can start managing my workforce, assigning job cards, checking if the job has been done, attaching certain, let's say, PDFs or notes, and sending them back and communicating with my field workers as I am sitting in the office. And the last thing that is also coming very soon within ArcGIS Field Maps is the state-of-the-art navigation capabilities. So I have been given a job that I need to go survey something at a particular location. How do I get there, right? In Field Maps, I can then navigate myself today. Like I said, you don't have to open another application. This is all being done in one application. So what really is the strategy for Field Maps, right? As I mentioned, that currently we have taken the capabilities for ArcGIS Collector, for ArcGIS Explorer, as well as ArcGIS Tracker, and we have all put them inside this new application called Field Maps, right? So currently, if you are utilizing ArcGIS Online, or if you guys are on ArcGIS Enterprise, this is what you can get at the current moment within the ArcGIS Field Maps application. What is coming, and I'm very excited for this, is that ArcGIS Workforce as well as ArcGIS Navigator is going to be incorporated within Field Maps, right? Field Maps comes with a new web app, basically for administrators, and Sean is just going to be taking you guys through all of that. So there's two main components to it. You get sort of an administrator's view where you can do all your work and you're preparing and you're planning, and then you've got the mobile view, and I'll be showing you guys a little bit later what the mobile view actually does. But within this application, the idea is that you're able to plan, navigate, understand, capture, track, as well as monitor your data, as well as your field crew in one application. So I'm really excited about this application. And what I want to know from you guys is that I've spoken a little bit about Field Maps, but before this webinar, have you ever heard of ArcGIS Field Maps? This is a very tough one. The results are just bouncing between 51%. And so I can see that some of you have, some of you haven't. Currently, it's sitting at 60% of you saying that you haven't heard of Field Maps, and about 40% of you guys saying that you have heard of Field Maps. So worry not if you say you have not heard of Field Maps. It is quite a new application. There's a lot of new developments that are actually happening within Field Maps, and that's what we're excited to share with you guys, right? It's not at the final level, but we're excited to share what is available at the current moment right now, right? So thank you, Sean, for sharing those results with us. And with that said, I'm actually going to be handing over to Sean, who's going to be taking us through some of the capabilities of Field Maps. So Sean, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lebo. There we go. So where we're going to start with this is with the management side of things and actually setting up what you need to set up to get Field Maps to work. So the first thing we really need is that these are going to use feature layers that we're going to then start editing and capture data into. So as you can see here, I'm in one of my folders on ArcGIS Online or in Portal, and I have a feature class here, and we're just going to do a very simple fire hydrant inspection. So from there, I can go into that feature class. And what I want to show you here is I've collected some data already, but when I created this feature layer, I did go and set up a number of domains so that when we capture the data, it is as simple as having that drop down to fill in that field, as well as there are some other fields that we can use where we would just type in some text. From there, I've pulled that feature class into a web map. And as you can see, I've already collected a little bit of data here. And with this web map, this is what we will start using inside the Field Maps mobile application to actually capture the data. So from here, you'll configure it, you'll create pop-ups if necessary, and then you would add ancillary data that you would need to help you capture the information that you want. So here you would generate your generic web map that you would use in your Field Maps. If we jump over to the Field Maps Manager, you can see here I've got 2 maps listed. Now, ideally, you would have multiple maps listed here because those are the maps that are available in my organization. But I've gone and hidden them because when I open up my mobile application, and you'll see this when Level goes through it, it doesn't list every piece of content in my organization. It just shows me the maps that are relevant to capturing data. So I can go ahead and select one of these maps, and we can start looking at configuring it for the use in the mobile app. So the first tab you'll see here is the overview, and this will just give you an idea of when it was updated, the summary, and some other bits of information. If we look at the second tab here, this is the contents tab. This will allow us to see what is inside that map when we start capturing data. Now, you might have forgotten to add certain layers when creating that web map, or you've created a generic web map, but different regions or areas might have their own specific data they want to add. You can then go and add layers here again so that it becomes more localized to that particular collection application. Also, we can see the layers that we've created for that map. So here I've just got that fire hydrant inspection feature layer. And if I select that, we can start building what we call a smart form. And what a smart form does is it allows us to capture the attributes of what's in that feature layer through a very simplistic form. So as you can see here, I've set up my form. I've created 3 groups. The first group will be based on my status, and I want to now add another field to capture here. And smart forms are very simple and easy to use. You can see the list of your attributes that you can edit. Here, I want to add the condition to this group. And from here, I've got that drop down now. And because I've set the domains, it is a drop down option. If I go into this attribute through the smart form, here I can change the display name to make it more descriptive. I can add a description. I can also say, is this field required or not? And if it's required, you will not be able to submit that form without that being included, as well as including no value options. Now, for this smart form, I've also gone and created 2 other groups. The first group is essentially for a fire hydrant that we want to test, where my third group over here is for a fire hydrant that we have tested and we've gone out to finally evaluate and say that all the tasks have been completed on this fire hydrant. So from here, I'm also able to set conditional visibility, which means based on a particular input, particular fields will display. So if we look at this completed field and we look at the arcade expression that I have put together for this conditional visibility, this is then going to point back to the status attribute, and it's going to say it must equal completed for that group of attributes to display. And so if that criteria is met, that group of attributes will appear, because you don't necessarily need to fill in all the attributes for everything, depending on the status of that feature. So that's just a little bit on the smart forms. The next tab I want to show you is the offline mode, and I know that question has come through the Q&A, so here we go. You can enable offline mode, and through that we can see what content is available for offline. We can predefine areas, managed areas, to download for offline mapping, as well as manage our attachments, so the photos, and we'll have a look at that now, as well as offline base maps. From here, I want to move on to the settings, and this is actually quite interesting, or quite important, because here you would then specify what is the accuracy, and I see this question has also come through a couple of times, and we'll touch a bit more on it towards the end. We can set the accuracy at which it will allow us to collect points, apply GPS averaging, streaming of the points being collected, the photo upload size, which is also quite important if you're concerned about storage, snapping to those other layers you already have in that web map, so that your feature is always in the right location and not just floating near it. We've also got a number of map tools available, so edit multiple features. We've got some feature actions. And then the most important setting I want to show you here is for the location tracking. And in this app that we've created, we have enabled location tracking so that we can see where our people are in the field when they're actually collecting this information and the tracks they create. And we can start using that for auditing purposes to say that, well, this person claims that they've gone to the suburb, but have they actually been to that suburb? And then you can monitor the tracks and see, well, have they covered every road or every aspect of that particular area? So that's just a bit more behind the settings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand back to Lebor, and Lebor is going to show us a little bit of how we can use this web map inside the Field Maps mobile application. Lebor?
Yes, thank you, Sean. Great stuff. So I am actually logged in with my cell phone currently, as you guys can see, and I'm actually going to be doing a live demo, right? Showing you guys how to do just a simple collection of data utilizing the map that Sean has actually created for us, right? So the first thing that we can actually see within Field Maps, I've got this little button that says My Tracks. Right? So I think this is one of the nice features that I want to highlight. Sean enabled tracking for the maps, but what you can do is you can switch this on or off. And what it basically does is that you can say, I want to switch on tracking for 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, or until it's switched off. And that's basically to make sure that, you know, you can save your battery life. You're not tracking the entire 8 hours. Maybe you're in the office, you're only going to be in the field for 4 hours. So you just want to be tracked for that duration. So immediately I pick one and I'm going to choose 4 hours. You'll notice it tells me that it is tracking until, and it gives me a time of when it's going to be tracking me until. So that's very nice. So I've got a list of all my different maps over here. I'm going to scroll down to a group that Sean actually created for us. And I'm going to actually start opening my maps. So the first thing that I'm going to do before I actually open the maps, Sean actually showed us a nice sort of little button where we can actually enable offline, right? So if I click on that little button over here, I can click where it says add offline area, meaning that in here, I can select a particular location or an area where I'm going to be working, and I can download it onto my device, and I can actually start utilizing that application. So one of the questions within the Q&A is, does it work offline? It definitely does work offline, but I'm not going to enable offline right now. So I'm just going to open the actual map itself. So, I mean, you can see I've done a little bit of scribbles on the actual map itself. But I mean, the user experience is not so different from what you have within your collector as well as your ArcGIS Explorer. So a couple of things that I actually want to show you. I'm just going to zoom out and go all the way to where Sean has actually captured some information. It's a little bit far. And I'm just going to zoom right in, right? I'm going to just maybe query a fire hydrant that Sean has actually collected. And I'm going to show you some information on there, right? So you can see, you know, it's been collected by Sean, and these are basically the attributes and everything over here. What I really like about this is that it's currently set to details, but I can click on where it says attached, and I can click on the actual attachment, and it shows me the actual photo. So it's taking a little bit of time, but there you can see Sean actually did do inspection for us. Thank you, Sean, and actually took a photo, so you can actually see on there. So that's one of the nice things I like. The next thing I'm just going to quickly show you is if I click there at the top, I still have my options: a base map, bookmarks, legend, markup, all those things. Sorry guys, this is a live demo, it's my actual cell phone. But you can see there, I've got a nice little feature that says markup, right? So that's one of the features that you actually find within ArcGIS Explorer that allows you to do just a little bit of scribbling within, you know, your map area, and you can actually add notes to it. So I really, really like this feature about this application. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. I'm going to simply say done. And the next thing I'm going to do is what you can also do is you can also, let's say, for example, this point or this hydrant, I need to go inspect it, but I need to direct myself to exactly where it is. Remember, I mentioned that eventually at some point, we're going to be adding Navigator within this one application. But currently within ArcGIS Field Maps, I'm just going to choose a fire hydrant. and I'm going to go all the way there to the bottom. And can you see I've got a little button that says directions? It's integrated with Apple Maps or Google Maps or whichever mapping application you have. I think Waze is also part of it, as well as here Maps. I may be mistaken about here. I'm not quite sure. Right, but I have Apple Maps as well as Google Maps installed on my phone. I want to navigate myself to that area, so I can click on Google Maps and look what it does. It opens my Google Map application and it starts giving me directions, telling me, turn by turn directions of how do I actually get there, right? So, okay, I think my network is just a little bit slow there. I'm going to move on, and I'm actually going to start capturing stuff, right? So I'm going to click on this little button over here that says I want to capture. Cool. I can then say I want to add a point at the current location I am. Remember that Sean set a specific threshold for location. So you can say, for example, if it's not, up to 10 centimeter, accurate, then I don't want to capture that location, which is very important. Right? So I'm just going to say use the poor location. It's fine. I really don't mind. But I can start now capturing other things. Sean showed us something very nice, smart forms, where he sets conditional visibility. So basically what Sean said is that if I click on status, right, immediately if I click on, let's say, for example, it's in progress, look at the piece of information that I'm getting. So I'm getting, they're asking me, is it operable? Is it hard to operate? Is it corroded? And so on. But if I choose the completed option, the options that come is who is the inspector and the date. So I'm just going to go with the completed one, and I'm going to choose the date. So very nice with the date as well. I can just set it to today. I don't have to go and in particular choose the date on the actual calendar. And I think that this is really nice, right? Having that conditional visibility, a nicer looking smart form. You'll notice that Sean was really, really nice when creating this, and that he actually even added like little hints for me, right? So where it says status, there's a little hint at the bottom that says, what is the status of the fire hydrant? So giving your field workers a little bit more context when they are on the field, right? Where it says completed, it just lets me know this section is about providing information about who completed the task. And this is all based on that administrative view that Sean showed you. Everything that you set on there will be visible on this particular form, right? And then obviously, just like you would in Collector, you can take a picture over there. I've got nothing interesting to show you guys, so I'm not going to take a picture, but you can also add attachments. And I really liked how you've got so many different options for attachments. So you can either choose a photo or video that's on your phone. You can take a video as you're out in the field. You can even record audio. I tested it, it's quite nice. Or you can choose an existing file that is saved actually on your machine, right? And you can actually attach it to this point. So once I am done, I am going to maybe update the point, choose just a faraway location, and I am going to click on my submit, and it says it's in progress. Remember, if I am online, that data goes immediately onto Sean's view, who is the administrator. But if it's offline, it gets saved on my mobile device. And immediately when I get internet connectivity, I can just press the sync button and everything will be sent back to ArcGIS Online or to your ArcGIS Enterprise. So yeah, that just concludes my mobile application demo. Sean, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we've been in the field, we've collected our data. What do I do with it now? I need to disseminate this with the rest of my organization or my managers or to another team who has to go out and actually start the maintenance and repairs on those specific fire hydrants. So what I've done here is I've just put together a very simplistic dashboard where I've got one indicator telling me how many fire hydrants do I have in my current map extent, what was the average flow rate, because if we find it's low for a particular area, there might be a problem with the system coming into the area rather than individual hydrants. And then I can also have a look at the condition of the hydrants and start filtering those out based on what the condition is. I can also then go look at particular hydrants. So once again, we've enabled those pop-ups and we've configured them so that it's easy to read, as well as containing those attachments. So if Lebo had put a photo on or a voice recording or an attachment, we would be able to see that through the attachment here. From there, once again, I've also added some filtering so that we can very easily navigate to the particular fire hydrant that we're interested in, or the types of fire hydrants we're interested in. And then the other thing that we mentioned earlier was the tracking capability. And once again, this is very important to understand where the people in the field have been moving, where have they accessed, what have they collected, and the particular routes that they might have followed for auditing purposes. So if I just go to my selected date of the inspector here, let's see if it was the Tuesday. If we look at the Tuesday, that's actually the tracks that were created while capturing this information. So we can see what areas are moved through. If we go one day before, I was a bit more lazy and I kind of just went around the block instead of covering the whole neighborhood. So this is just a quick example, and because it's sitting in a web map, we can start using it in other applications. So everything is seamless and not integrated, but everything's synchronized. So that you've always got the same picture of the information, or the same single source of truth for what you are evaluating. Thank you. Lebo, I think I'll hand back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sean. Great stuff. Okay. So I just want to do a quick recap of ArcGIS Field Maps. We've spoken just a little bit about what ArcGIS Field Maps is. You have seen it from an administrator's point of view, as well as from a field worker's point of view. So firstly, as mentioned, ArcGIS Field Maps gives you a new web app for administrators, and that's basically the view that Sean showed you in the beginning when he was setting up the form for me to go out on the field. The other important thing is that smart forms. So you can set things like conditional visibility. You can set things like adding a description or a little hint. You can enforce certain people to answer certain questions, so make it like mandatory or required. So there's quite a bit of functionality on there with smart forms. Location tracking, so I showed you guys how you can enable it on your mobile device, where you can even set how long you want to be tracked for. Integration with Google Maps and Apple Maps. Ideally, this is going to stay, but eventually when we get to a point where ArcGIS Field Maps is completely 100%, what the vision is for it, you also will be able to navigate yourself within ArcGIS Field Maps, utilizing that navigator for ArcGIS capability, right? My favorites, map viewing as well as markups. Getting onto a certain site, you want to make notes, right? Not part of your feature class, but just, scratching out a little area and saying, I can't access that particular area because maybe there's water or something like that. You can actually do that. Something we actually didn't show you guys today is you can also, this webhook integration. So immediately when I'm done on the field and I've collected something, for example, as a field worker, it sends through a notification to the administrator or Sean to say, Lebo has actually completed this, this job or this task. So yeah, it's actually been done. This is what she has collected and this is where she was. So that's basically just a little bit about what ArcGIS Field Maps has in terms of the capabilities. Now, what's next? Okay, so if we take a step back and go back to that first slide that I showed you a couple of applications that Esri sort of gives our clients to enable you guys to actually perform your field operations. We spoke about Collector, Explorer, Tracker, Workforce, as well as Navigator. The vision for ArcGIS Field Maps is that it's going to incorporate all 5 of these applications within one application. Currently, we are sitting at phase 1. Phase 1 means you have access to ArcGIS Field Maps as an application, and the capabilities that you have currently are the capabilities from the Collector application, the Explorer application, as well as the Tracker application. Phase 2 is then going to be the part where, in addition to these 3 applications, you will now also be able to do field workforce management, utilizing the capabilities from the application called Workforce for ArcGIS, right? I'm not going to give you guys dates, but it's going to be very, very soon. Maybe in the next maybe 6 or 8 months or so, we'll be able to actually get into phase 2, right? And phase 3, which is really the final phase of ArcGIS Field Maps, is where now we can start doing all those different capabilities, but we can also navigate ourselves within that particular application. So I'm really excited for us to actually get to phase 3, but also take into consideration that there will be a lot of different updates within ArcGIS Field Maps in context to data collection, in terms to tracking. You know, how do we improve the tracking? How do we make the smart forms even more robust? I know there's a lot of different stuff that are coming in the near future with smart forms, right? So it doesn't mean that they've just taken collector and they've placed it there in Explorer and Tracker. There's still going to be a lot of improvement in terms of those different components that are actually involved. So yeah, that basically just concludes sort of my little presentation about ArcGIS Field Maps. And before we get into the Q&A, I would just like to find out from you guys, having seen what you saw today, will you guys be using ArcGIS Field Maps going forward? Of course, I am hoping that I see 100% at yes. Obviously, I can see that a lot of you guys are saying you will definitely be utilizing ArcGIS Field Maps. And remember that if you don't use ArcGIS Field Maps, we still have Survey 123 or Quick Capture if you want to utilize an Esri product. I can see some people are saying maybe, and thank you very much for making my day. Only 2% are saying no, right? And I'm gonna bet on the fact that these two are going to be utilizing Survey 123. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Sean, for sharing those results. I think let's get to the Q&A, right? So Sean, oh, not Q&A. I'm a little bit in a rush. So before we actually get into Q&A, what I also put up is, you know, there's a lot of different training options for ArcGIS Field Maps. So currently we don't have a instructor-led course, meaning that you can't come to the Esri office and actually get a trainer training on ArcGIS Field Maps, but there are a lot of different training options on the Esri e-learning site, right? So I just searched for ArcGIS Field Maps once I logged in, and basically I can get things from a video. There's even a document. If you just have a look at the screen there, the top right-hand corner, there is a document, and that's just your migration guide. If you were using Collector or any one of those applications I mentioned, this just basically helps you to migrate to this new application, right? So like I said, there's videos, there's webinars, there's learning plans. There's a lot of material out there that has been created. And of course, you obviously have access to us. So if you guys have any questions or any special requests about ArcGIS Field Maps, the Esri technical team is always there to help you. Speak to your account manager and we can make sure that we can assist you with that. Okay, I think now we can get into Q&A, right?
Great. So I'm going to give Lebo a chance to quickly look at some of the questions that are coming through, but there are a couple that I've already highlighted that I'd like to answer. And the first one here is, what is the accuracy more or less of the application while capturing data? And this question's come through a couple of times with regards to the RTK GPSs and, you know, can we improve the accuracy in this and that? The application depends on the GPS device that's used on the actual capture device. So with the cell phone, we're looking at an accuracy of around about 5 meters or less. If the handheld is able to use the mobile application because it's available on the Play Store, yes, then you can start using your RTK system because it will take in that GPS information and capture it inside the app. So the accuracy of the collection comes down to the hardware that you have, not the actual application. So that's the one question that's come through quite a bit. And Lebo, okay, please interrupt me as we go.
100%. Okay, so I am also going through the questions. And one question that I see people are asking, you know, will Survey 123, Quick Capture and stuff be incorporated into ArcGIS Field Maps? The answer to that is no. There are no plans to incorporate Survey 123 and Quick Capture within Field Maps. The idea is that we keep them separate. If you want a map centric mobile application for capturing data, you would use ArcGIS Field Map. But if you want to go for a form centric, then you would stick with Survey 123 or Quick Capture. Sean, while you also go through some of the questions, the next one I'm seeing is people asking the licensing, you know, what licensing you're required. So obviously you need a username and password in order for you to access this application. I saw another question, somebody asking, will you still be required to use desktop? You prepare your data in desktop, geodatabase, create your domains, your subtypes, your symbology, and then you publish it either to ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So if you are still pre-10.7, so you're utilizing the level 1 or level 2 named user, you have access to ArcGIS Field Maps. If you are in an organization where you've got a viewer, a field worker user type, or a GIS professional, basically what I'm saying is that currently everybody has access to ArcGIS Field Maps. But obviously a viewer cannot collect data on the field. They can only view the data, right? But a person who's like a creator will be able to create that information all on the field, right? It's available for everyone. You can download it from your app store, and you can also utilize it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see another question's come through here, and this is something that we covered it slightly earlier in the presentation as well, is can you force certain fields to be completed before information is captured and saved? Yes, that's what that conditional formatting allows you to do. You have to fill in a particular value before you can fill in other parts of the form, as well as you can tick that box that forces it to be a required field, so that it will only be submitted once all the required fields are met. And maybe related to that one is, can we have multiple inspections on the same feature? Yes, you can. So because we're sitting in a web map and we've got that feature layer sitting inside there, we can have that map shared amongst a team of users. And then maybe related to that is, can the previous inspections be loaded? Yes, indeed they can. So because it's sitting in that web map, and you saw that with Lebo's demonstration, the existing data was already there. You could either edit that existing data, depending on the attribute fields that you've created. You can have someone capture and then have different fields for someone who's confirming that the work has been done, and then someone to go and inspect it after a year to say this is just a maintenance checkup. So it all depends on how you create that feature.
100%. Okay, thank you, Sean. So I'm going to read out another question that says, will the current apps still function as they are currently? So remember, we are at phase 1, which means we have collector, tracker, as well as explorer. Currently, the apps will function as they are. December 2020, they will be retired from iOS as well as Android, meaning that there will not be any further development to ArcGIS Collector, Tracker, or Explorer. All the development and the new stuff will be now pushed to the Field Maps application. If you are wondering if Field Maps is available on Windows, no, it's not. Currently, there is no plan, so therefore, Collector, Tracker, Explorer will still be supported in Windows for the foreseeable future, right? So we've got that. I've got another question that says over here, and I'm just trying to find it now. Somebody's asking, will this be able to integrate with the BIM capabilities in the Esri ecosystem? So glad you asked that question. ArcGIS Field Maps does have indoor capabilities. So it is something that the team is working on. And once that has been finalized and released, I'll be happy to maybe share it maybe through like a blog, an Esri blog that you can actually have a look at and you can utilize. Let me just...
I've got one or two here I can quickly handle.
No problem.
The one question we have here, is the accuracy saved? Yes, it can be saved, once again, depending on how you set up that feature layer. So for the demonstration we've done here today, I used one of the generic templates off ArcGIS Online, and that included all my vertical accuracies, horizontal accuracies, and so it would capture that information from the GPS device, because those fields are available as long as you can map them. Then another question I have here is, can you export it as a CSV if you don't want to synchronize it? You would have to push that information, and Lebo, you'll correct me here, you'll have to push that information back to your organization before we can download it as a CSV. Otherwise, we have to get into the back end of the app and actually find the data and copy it over.
Yeah, so you just basically access the service. Alrighty, I am seeing a question says, will the relevant expressions and other calculations be limited to Arcade, or will Python be incorporated? So Arcade is the official Esri expression language. It will not be Python, so it will just be Arcade, right? So I'm just gonna mark that down. There's another question I saw, Sean. Yeah, I just can't find it now. So somebody's asking that Arcade, one problem that currently exists is that dashboards and portal do not currently support Arcade. Currently, yes, in ArcGIS Online, dashboards do support Arcade, right? That was in the last release, but at 10.9.1, which is coming in the near future, maybe let's say September or November, right? Dashboards will support Arcade in there definitely, right? So yeah. Where is the scribble saved? On the device or on the field in the DB? It's the scribbles, that markup is saved on your map itself. So it actually adds it as a markup layer or temporary layer on your web map. So I'm going to mark that done. Does this application mean that Esri will be slowing development on survey 1 to 3? Absolutely not. Remember, we're saying there's going to be two types of collating: map-centric field data collection, as well as form-centric field data collection. So there still will be development on each of those different applications, and they will be improved. So quite a number of questions. Sean, do you want to go? I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sift through all of these and actually get the answers. So can you display attachments on a dashboard in a separate widget instead of the pop-up? Lebo, I don't know. I haven't seen that. I think you should be able to actually.
Sorry, Sean, please say that again.
Can you display attachments on a dashboard in a separate widget instead of the pop-up? I don't know if there's a
if it's
widget
a picture. Yeah, so if it's a picture, I mean, officially no, but there is a workaround. If it is an image, then there is a way to actually do it. Speak to your account manager, let him get either me or any one of your, Esri industry leads or Sean in touch, and then we'll be able to assist you with that one. So yeah, I'm not going to go through the technical questions. So for the technical questions, I'm going to, I think, maybe have a look at the Esri South Africa blog as well as the Esri Inc. blog, because there's a whole lot of nice things that we're writing on there just to assist our community into like migrating. A lot of the questions that we have are very technical, but I think we've spoken a lot about just the general, right? I'm just going to reiterate a couple of things. Everybody has access to field maps if you are utilizing ArcGIS Online or you are on ArcGIS Enterprise 10.8.1 above, right? Any user type can have it. So if you've got a username and password that's attached to Esri that your company has paid for, then you have access to ArcGIS Field Maps. But it depends on the role that you have within your organization. If my role is just to view maps, then I will not be able to capture data. But if my role is to edit maps, then I will be able to actually edit that data. There is a migration plan or guide. You can find it on the e-learning. As mentioned, the platforms is Android as well as iOS. Windows currently not supported. What happens to the existing field apps? So not to sort of scare you guys, but they will go into mature support. No further development is going to be done with it. So if there is something new, a new pink button, for example, when you press it, it makes coffee. They won't put it in Collector. They'll put it in ArcGIS Field Maps, right? Yeah.
Maybe
so
just a quick comment there, Lebo. And I wouldn't say we're being overwhelmed with questions, but there are very good questions coming through. Too many to answer 100%. At this moment. Maybe following this webinar, we'll take a look at those questions. We'll put a bit of a resource pack together. We'll answer what we can, condense it, and then send that out to all the attendees.
Great stuff, 100%. Thank you so much, Sean. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've kept you guys for longer than what we had actually expected. But the last thing that I'm actually just going to say is, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us today. Thank you, Sean. I think this was a very valuable information session. As Sean mentioned, we're going to be working on making sure that we provide more resources for you guys to actually answer those different questions. But I mean, at any point in time, speak to your account manager, who will then link you with your industry lead, who is a little bit more technical to help you and actually assist you if you want to actually get started with the ArcGIS Field Maps, right? Lastly, the Esri User Conference is happening next week, Monday, right? So from the 12th to the 15th, we're having our annual user conference. And of course, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is all virtual. So remember that the registration is complimentary for anybody who's got an Esri username and password, even if it's a public free account, right? Log in Monday, 5 p.m. South African time for the plenary. And if your organization is obviously current on maintenance, you can then attend for the rest of the week for the sessions. I am looking forward to seeing you guys there. I'm looking forward to you guys learning a lot. So from my side, thank you so much for joining. Really hope this has been informational. Sean, any last words from you?
Yes, thank you very much for joining us today. And we're very excited to see such good questions coming through, which means the crowd's excited about this. So we're looking forward to those
100%.
future developments.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day ahead.
Thanks. Bye.